This is PCAP Reentry Open Mic Night. Thank you all so much. So this is the culmination of the work of myself, Carolyn, and Allie, and Mary, and a lot of other people, but we were co-facilitating a workshop through PCAP. You'll meet some of the people who we had the pleasure of working with and meeting throughout the workshop. Tonight we're going to be reading a lot of stuff that we wrote throughout our workshop. We did a bunch of writing exercises about various themes. Tonight the themes that you'll be hearing about are water, the past, the present, and the future. That's one theme. Childhood and family, that's one theme. And home/freedom is another theme. One sort of larger recurring theme that will come up is the Flint water crisis, because the people in the workshop decided that all of those individual themes are a part of the larger crisis that's going on in Flint. And so, yeah, we'll have readings, but we'll also have song and some skits. It will be a blast, and we're so happy that you are here to join us. So to start, Mary is going to read a section. This is the first section on water. Thank you again.
Go Mary!
A memory. I remember being a little girl in my daddy's big gold Buick, riding in the front seat with him after Mass on Sunday. He always turned polka music up, and he'd stomp his foot in time to the music and sing, "Who stole my kishka? Who stole my kishka? Who stole my kishka? Kishka, yeah, yeah, yeah." We'd laugh, and we'd sing, and we'd play in the warm, sweet sun. Spring was my favorite. Sometimes all the little kids were in the car with us. I was the oldest of 7. A nightmare. Flint. I dreamt my dad was driving too close to the river. He was singing polkas and laughing, pretending to drive the car into the Flint River. There was a narrow dirt road that ran right next to the shore. On the other side was the Buick plant. I remember the river being an odd shade of green. I was scared of it. Suddenly he drove off the road into the deep water. We were sinking and screaming, and we were all about to drown. I frantically tried to open the windows to save my brothers and sisters, but we couldn't get out. We sank into the deep, dark water. God save the people of Flint.
Michigan, so I grew up near water. There was a lake 3 blocks from my house that I saw almost every day. There's something about Michigan's lakes I've always loved. Larger than what you might think of as a lake if you're not used to having the great ones just an hour or two's drive away. All the vastness of the ocean, all the smallness you feel when confronted with an endless expanse of blue, with none of the salt or depth or crazy, scary fish. I've always felt comforted by my proximity to all this beautiful fresh water. I've always felt grateful. And for what? The state surrounded on 3 sides by clear blue lakes has poisoned its people. Water for me has always been safe, but I've been lucky. I've never had to think twice about turning on the tap to take a drink. Never had to think twice about taking a shower. The fact the water is unsafe, that is the ultimate betrayal, that people are being harmed irreparably so by this life-giving thing. I can't think of what is worse. I grew up in Michigan, so I grew up near water. I grew up in Michigan, so I'd heard about the water crisis long before Cher sent some bottled water, long before candidates were using it for votes. Confronted ages ago with the idea of it being poisoned, I did nothing. It was unfathomable to me. It still is, and still it's going on, and still we've done nothing.
grab some water from the sink and wash them off. I'm so sick of the dirt on my feet. Let me bathe in the river and make them clean. This water keeps us pure when the sun bakes us dry. I'm an Aquarius, so the water and I should be one and the same, but it's never really pulled me in the way it has to others. I have memories of summers on the beach, but I usually remember them from the sand. The water is too dangerous, my mother would say. Stay here and play in the sand. So I would, because there were sandcastles to be made and the ocean smelled like rotten fish. So yes, technically I'm the water bearer, but no. Water was never completely native to me. Water was always what people commanded of me. Take a shower, brush your teeth, drink 8 glasses of water a day or you'll end up like your father. So I bathed and I gargled and I chugged it down like I was told. I thought it was bland, boring, and forgettable. Nothing about water ever interested me in the least bit. I never understood why water consumption was so encouraged. Our aquifer water supply was constantly dwindling, never full. It was always hoarded by the people, like precious jewels. Our county was always under a water restriction warning. We could only water our grass between 7 and 8 a.m. on Tuesday mornings because our address ended in a 2. Water was never something I cared about or for, but it was something that I could always count on, something that I could trust to be there and nourish me, even when in short supply. Now, looking at the people of Flint, I realize how selfish I had been.
So the next section, Isaiah said a little bit before that we're going to present is when we were writing about the past, present, and the future. So just keep that in mind. My past looked like this: swimming for miles in a pool, in a lake, in a river, a canal, a green minivan, and my babysitter teaching me all the words to Let's Go Crazy by Prince as we drove to Metro Park. Burned CDs from a boy I liked in 5th grade. Baseball games I was forced to go to, the sun beating down on my easily burned shoulders. It looked like the skyline of Chicago, where I was born, the Rocky Mountains dwarfing the house in Littleton, Colorado, where I went next. It looks like the sparkling lakes of Michigan, the state in which I grew up, the state which I will always call my home. My past looks like dreams of being a singer, an Egyptologist, a SeaWorld trainer, a doctor, a ballet dancer, a bookseller. But at the same time, my past looks like my present. Same brown hair, crooked teeth, weak ankles, same fears, sharks, being forgotten, same hopes, that I'll never see a shark, that'll never be forgotten. Same obsession with people who don't doubt themselves, who do what they want, who don't care what people think. Same longing to be that type of person. The past was once the present, was once the future. They are all different names for the same thing. I'm still made of a city of mountains of lakes, and I always will be. I don't mean that people don't change. I guess I just mean everything I've ever seen, ever heard, ever done is a part of me, of this one person, and always will be. My mistakes, my triumphs, I have to take them both. I lied earlier. I am not just scared of sharks and being forgotten. I am scared of everything I don't know. I am scared of the future. But what I have to remember is there is one thing I do know in the future, one person. And it's this brown-haired, shark-fearing, Prince-singing, ballet dancing, city mountain lake girl. I know her. She is my past, my present, and one day my future, which will then be the present and then later the past. And she'll just keep going, and it will be fine. I will just keep going, and it will be fine.
I always think about what it would be like to redo it all, to start over, to fix mistakes, to swerve away from those bumps and holes in the pavement that got in my way as I grew older. And the idea of being able to do this feels extremely exciting, like the best thing in the world. Why? Because I think that with the wisdom and experience I have now, I would be a much more focused and more gentle person. Childhood was full of moments where I bullied, mocked, judged my peers, people my age who were just trying to get by just the same as me. I think back on this past and a deep, seeping pit forms in my belly. I want to run away from it. A part of me thinks I write about it just to separate it from myself, to be able to point out at it and say that that is not me anymore. I am here, that is there. But no, of course that is me, that is within me. Hanging out with a group of friends for years and years, talking about how we were the boys in our grade. I remember feeling like I had to end or treat with great caution any friendships I might have formed with people outside of this explicitly marked, segregated group of people. I remember the first time I heard my friends starting to use the word faggot, a word I had been raised to fear and despise, and feeling like I had to join the party, unable to speak up. Or the triathlon my friends and I organized, where we took two kids, Jacob, who was very chubby, and Spencer, who speaks with a stutter, and pitted them against each other. We forced them to eat 2 burritos and then run for miles to a public basketball court where they would have to make a 3-pointer. Spencer, the loser, wept, and we all laughed at him. I laughed at him. And I remember these moments where I remember other moments where I did speak up, where I expressed what was perceived as weakness, most often physical in the context of group sporting events, and the sinking feeling of tormented isolation and insufficiency. I had to suppress myself in this group from 4th grade to 11th. But where did I hide? What would I have learned? Who would I be? I wish to re-inhabit the past to answer these questions, to break out, to be free. But of course, this is not how any of it works, and if I think too much about all of this, about how I want to change who I was for all of these years, I'll drive myself crazy. But there's definitely a lesson to be learned. The past informs my present and my future. My future self is always looking back at me through memories. I ought to live then considering that future self and the memories, feelings, associations he has with his past, because once it's gone, nothing to be done. But while it's here, I hold immense power to act how I feel, to be open and true. And from this past of torment and suppression, there are lessons to be learned. Most importantly, I think, stems from the fact that for years and years, I thought life to be a competition of strength, wit, or dominance, and I looked at peers as competitors. But this is only destructive. Instead, now I know that we are all trying just to get by, to live, to express ourselves, and to be comfortable in our skins. It's important then to think of the past not as an isolated time, but as a constantly informing, evolving expanse of moments.
The past. Part 1. Water wars have begun in Flint, Michigan. There are professors at esteemed universities like the University of Michigan who refuse to work on prison issues because they believe within the next few decades the whole world will be at war over water and we will all be criminals. At current rates of incarceration, by 2054, there will be as many keepers as kept. Mass incarceration is taking over the United States. Water wars began in Michigan for decades before the current state of despair in Flint, but no one was paying attention. In Coldwater, Michigan, at Florence Crane Women's Facility, the water was toxic for decades. Housed in a turn-of-the-century state school, the women's prison was well known among the locals for having highly contaminated H2O. The prison sat on the outskirts of the city. It had 3 wells. All were contaminated from the runoff from the cornfields surrounding the fences. A guard told me no one could sell their house for 100 miles around the prison because the water was all poisonous, capable of causing death or serious debilitation. She said there was a chemical plant that brought back bird droppings from the rainforest in South America and produced fertilizer composed of noxious nitrates that was then spread on the fields for years. The pungent smell of cow manure could always be smelled in the spring. I remember gagging when I tried to eat dinner in the central prison dining room because the smell was so putrid. The warden told me she had to close down 2 of the wells that housed the prison and because they were so harmful and could be deadly. But what of the remaining well?
Okay, our next theme is the joint theme of childhood and youth. The lakes of Texas offer an oasis for any person looking to ditch the burning summer heat. Located sparsely throughout the desert landscape, they are often few and far between. Getting to one for a vacation was an all-day activity, requiring planning from all the adults involved. When the Gonzalez family chose Lake Medina for their summer vacation destination, I, oblivious to the amount of forethought involved, decided to ruin the entire thing. It wasn't my intention to spoil the fun, but I do have my way of causing a scene or a disaster at the most unexpected times. Like any family escaping the scorching sun, the Gonzalez family brought along popsicles, lollipops, and soda for the entire family to enjoy. And there I was, only 5 short years on this earth, getting my fix of sugar. I was eating lollipop after lollipop, one after another after another. By noon, I was riding an insane sugar high, and the day was still young. I stood on the shore, watching as my older brother and cousins splashed around the water. It was as I returned the cherry-flavored, saccharine sweet stick to my mouth that I heard my mother screech my name. "Alyssa, take that lollipop out of your mouth now!" I'm understandably confused. It is summer, and I am but a wee child. Allow me to enjoy my unhealthy snack in peace, please. But obedient as ever, I complied with the request. I opened my mouth to remove the lolly from my tongue, and time seems to slow down as a plump, menacing bumblebee flies gracefully out. Time does stop then, as my young mind tried to process the events unfolding. I realized I would be forever changed by this. Bees would no longer be the adorable insect stitched onto my sweaters. No, now they were the enemy.
I love my family, my mom, my dad, my little brother, although it has not always been that way. When I left for school, I was pretty adamant about the fact I didn't really need them around. We didn't get along, and now I was gone, so what was the point in going home? It took some time for us to all realize that we loved each other and that we needed one another around. But I built a family at school too, one of my own choosing. There are people I've brought into my family who know things about me that people related to me by blood will never know. There are people in my family who have been there for me in far more concrete ways than maybe my parents ever have been. It does not matter that they are not my blood. I chose them, and that's as close as you can get. When my parents and I started hanging out again, I make it sound like we broke up, and I guess for a while we kind of did. They embraced my other family, the one that I made. Now it feels like I chose my whole family, parents included, to be around me and to love. And I guess that's all that family ever really needs to have. Love, not blood relation or obligation. My family is just real love now.
Home. The place, the idea that, due to some absurd stroke of divine random luck, has always been safe and comfortable for me. Always been a place of bedtime stories told by my dad to me and my brother as each boy took a dad's leg to rest on. The Space Family from Xaviertron, stranded on Earth after their spaceship broke, fighting the evil mustachio. Or learning to make cookies and cakes with my mom, or sitting around my older sister's record player with all her cool poet friends, learning that Lou Reed and Janis Joplin and John Overpaul any day of the week. Or playing Beanie Baby Baseball with my older brother, where we'd use couch pillows as bases and our arms as bats and the beanies for balls. But now all of these memories and this unquestionable warmth feels under attack. My sister lives 3,000 miles away with a weird man almost twice her age, a man who makes me and my brother both squirm. My two siblings, whose relationship has always been testy, can barely be in the same room together. The leader of all of this, my mom, whose vitality has been the most relentless, has not been herself in months. But maybe all of these different conflicts that are arising now Maybe they've always been there. Now it all feels especially damaging and urgent because we're all older, and our ties to each other are being strained by age and distance and change. No longer physically bound to the same space, home, like we once were. And this straining, though, I think, is inevitable. It comes with life. And maybe this time, in fact, is when all of those cozy memories and feelings from the past matter most. Because nothing can ever change the fact that we all shared that time and space together. And that time, despite the fact that we are moving physically apart, is what keeps us whole, keeps us together. We grow together. And nobody can forget that, and I believe nobody will. I believe my family, citizens of my home, will persevere. Thank you.
That brings us into our next topic of home and freedom. Freedom used to mean a place away from what I always knew as home. The four walls of my bedroom and my mother's commanding voice telling me to stay inside of them felt restrictive. I longed for 6-hour drives into the middle of nowhere, warm nights on the riverwalk with friends, and wind rushing through my hair as I pedaled my bike far away from the black asphalt paved road near this Taft Boulevard. Anywhere that I didn't recognize was freedom. Freedom was unfamiliarity. Now I'm not so sure. I walk the same streets every day. I stand on top of the same wooden doorstep, the one with the purple paint chipping off. I warm myself with the same overpriced Michigan blanket. But I don't feel suffocated, and I never feel alone. Maybe freedom is a state of mind, or a state of volition, autonomy. The crushing responsibilities I take ownership of make me free. There is freedom in every stroke my pen makes and in every color my words paint. I will open up the door to the basement of my mind to let the light in and warm the cold corners. I can let my mind run free because they can shut me out or stuff me in a box, but no one will ever control the reaches of my imagination. Freedom is seizing beauty and holding it tight between my fingers. Freedom gives me the opportunity to forget about red lights when crossing the street, to bleach my hair platinum blonde, to walk down an empty sidewalk at 2 a.m. and not look back, all without permission. To me, this feels like freedom, which may seem ordinary, but is what I've grown to know well.
Freedom is not free. It was born out of water and blood and guts and glory. Freedom is elusive. It's like mist in the fog, like shadows in the rain. People want their freedom, not realizing what they already have, what they enjoy every day. We used to sing this inside when I was serving life. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me, over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Father and be free. No more crying. No crying, there'll be no more crying over me, and before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave, and go home to my Father and be free. They'll be singing, they'll be singing, they'll be singing over me, and before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave, and go home to my Father and be free. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me, and before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home
missing tonight, who are supposed to be a part of our performance, who have been coming. Some of our most frequent participants this year, Terry and Leslie, who they were gonna come and read and be up here with us, and it would be not right to not mention them. So know that we are thinking of them, and they're lovely, and they would have been amazing. And hopefully one day you'll be able to see it on a stage like this, or in life, because they're just terrific. So this is still that same. This is still the show. That was just a little. Yeah. Okay. Days on the theme of this is water. Okay. Days on misty beaches with my family. Driving out to Coney Island for a day that, no matter how often we went out, felt special. Felt separate from everything else. Timeless, weightless, together. Long walks on the boardwalk, eating pierogies with the Russians and playing catch with my brother and dad, or summer afternoons in the sand with friends, laughing, playing, looking at the people, feeling really alive. Because beaches are a place of festivity and celebration, precisely, I think, because of the water, the immense, endless, glowing, playful, natural water. It is permanent, and it is there for all of us to celebrate. Or instead, now I know that this is only how it should be, not how it is. In the context of the Flint water crisis, these memories feel exclusive only to the most privileged among us, because, as Flint shows us, people cannot play in their water like I have all these years, much less bathe in it or drink it. And it's a crisis, of course, because there is more than enough to go around. I've seen it in oceans and rivers, ponds and lakes, bodies gleefully shifting shapes in fire hydrants whose streams children run around under, some dancing, others drinking, others dreaming, all playing and laughing and smiling. Playing in water, drinking water, it's a beautiful thing because we are playing with nature, the thing our world provides us plenty of, the thing we all need. To deprive a people, a family of water is a crime against humanity. As a character in a play I was once in says, the law must be natural. If it's not natural, it is wrong. Well, I cannot think of a more unnatural way of treating somebody or of being forced to live than the deprivation of water. For me, somebody who tries his absolute best to be aware of all the privileges I have in my life, the ongoing water crisis entirely recontextualizes all of my water-based memories. The government is trying to render people subhuman. We all know we need water to live. We need it. So how could you actively withhold clean water from an entire city of people? The only reason I can begin to fathom is that somewhere within you, you want these people to die. You want cities of people who, due to societal circumstances entirely out of their control, you want them to be forgotten, disappear, to isolate yourself in your own little box of your friends and forget that people in poor communities exist, forget the blood that is on your hands. You wouldn't say or do any of this to their faces because that would be beneath you, you who sit on your throne. Instead, you want to phase them out, destroy their humanity, humiliate them, shame them until they quit. But I don't believe you will win. I believe in my fellow activists, my brothers and sisters. I believe we will fight back against you, because these attempts of hatred and bigotry do not win in the end. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name's Aaron. Briefly just introduce myself. I'm a doctoral student and professor at UW Dearborn. Last but not least, I'm a convict that loves the Prison Creative Arts Project, and I'm happy to be here to represent that great program from the University of Michigan. And I'm going to try my damnedest tonight to invoke one of my favorite characters who we've kind of hinted at a little bit this evening. Anybody have any clue who I might be talking about? There's an excellent political figure in the state of Michigan today.
Governor Snyder?
Governor Snyder. Governor Snyder. So I'm going to invoke Governor Snyder and see how we go. Well, I'm happy to be at this Republican donor event. I'm glad to see so many of our young Republican, extremely conservative donors. I'm happy to see some CEOs from corporations here. Nestle, Coca-Cola. You guys are supporting me. I appreciate that. We got a lot of crazy shit going on nowadays, but don't worry about that. I'm taking taxpayers' money, and we got an excellent legal defense as of this time. So we're going to be tapping into the Great Lakes where there's, of course, no pollution. There's a few spots left, and we're going to be pulling water for corporate agenda. So, you know, you heard a little bit earlier, we had some college students bitching a little bit about social justice. People of color or people who are not wealthy are struggling to get what they need in the city of Flint. Well, you know, I mean, we really understand that what we do is important. And to prove this point, I have taken this pledge to drink Flint's water for the next 30 days straight. And I just want you to show here, as you look at both of these, one is from Ann Arbor and one is from Flint, and they look exactly alike. I mean, completely identical. So, I mean, you know, obviously this is the Ann Arbor. you know, it's a little dirty. You know, things are not so great around here. Now, the things we've been doing in Flint are incredible. For those of you who are donating to my campaign, I'm going to be doing an executive order here very soon, and I'm going to allow myself to run for office again. So make sure that this problem is fixed. And I'm going to start drinking Flint's water right now to show you, you know, how it is. Yeah, it's really good.
Governor Snyder.
Yeah.
You're under arrest.
Hold on 1 second.
You're under arrest for crimes against humanity.
I don't think you know who I am.
You're under arrest for poisoning 8,000 children in Flint. Stop. Yes. The rest of your ass go to jail. Turn around.
My best friend, and he would not allow.
Bill Shooty's going too. He's going next.
No. This is discrimination.
Shut up.
This is what it is.
Shut the fuck up.
I can't believe this. This is fucking.
You have the right to remain silent.
Oh my God.
Anything you say.
Bill Shooty, where are you? Bill.
The hell with you, Snyder!
Take away.
I can't be in there with all those convicts.
And that's it.
Yeah!